Off. Hello, my name is Brad Bodnerchuk, and welcome to the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, where we discuss everything hospitality, from the food on the plate to the teams that make it happen and the community that drives this industry forward. On this podcast, we sit down and chat with some of the most exciting, inspiring, and innovative minds that make up one of the most dynamic industries that there is today. And today, I have the pleasure of being joined by none other than Dean and Yvonne from the local farm. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And to my right, been on the show before, becoming a great friend, Dan from Culture Craft Kombucha. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks for having me.
It is a beautiful morning on Thursday morning. If you are currently listening in your car driving to work, or you're on iTunes listening, I implore you to go over to YouTube, check out the video, and just look at the scenery right now. We've been blessed with blue sky, and I'm not really good with temperature, but I'm going to guess like plus
Nine.
9. I was gonna say 10, but yeah, we'll go with 9. So yeah, it's really, really cool that we're able to be here today, and we'll get into where we are at. But super blessed that Mother Nature blessed us with clear skies and temperature where we can sit outside and have a chit chat with these three lovely people. So we are currently at the local farm, which is Dean and Yvonne's business. I'm gonna pass it over to you guys right there. Help us understand, one, what the local farm is, and two, why the local farm exists.
I'll start. So the idea came when we were in Singapore. We were teaching over there. I was teaching chemistry, and she's teaching grade 5. And we were having troubles getting, lettuces that we wanted and so on. And then to make a long story short, there's a company over there called, what is those guys? Sustenir. I think they're European.
Okay.
But they started doing, I was interested in hydroponics as well because I was doing it through the school. And I just became interested in, well, how can we grow this in a more modern way? I don't think the system we've got is working. It's not going to feed how many people we need. I think we need 70% more production and so on. So I got interested that way, and I found these guys, and he was demoing, and I think he's the guy that's in charge of all the automation of it now. And he saw me pick up a hydroponic kale from Australia, and he starts talking to me saying, well, it's hydroponic, but they actually spray pesticides outside and everything. And then he has his kale right next to it. It wasn't much more, and he went through it, and they're doing it indoors in Singapore. So we started going into, I saw the red lights on his pamphlet, and then he asked me some questions. And then he realized, well, I knew about it as well. So we just hit it off really well. And it just kind of got the bug in me. Well, we're deciding to move back to Canada. Well, what are we going to do? I didn't really want to teach anymore. It's been a good 10 years. But so I decided I want to do some modern farming, and I want to do it hydroponically. And the original idea was actually to do it in containers, or warehouses like these guys were. But I did some research, and I don't know if you heard of CannaPro. They're out of Canada. They do marijuana. We're not doing marijuana. It's the first question we always get. And they did research, and they found greenhouses, and some guys in the States, hybrid greenhouses, are south-facing and so on. And when you work out all electricity costs and everything, it's the way to go. Because you get the best of both worlds. Like, we got LED lights, but we also have the sun. So we can do year round, and we can control the environment, but not with the excessive costs of electricity. I'm hearing that's a real problem with this future farm. I think it will get better going forward because there's a lot of people doing it. And then we wanted to bring local greens. The idea of the local farm, my idea was, I can't believe the name was available.
I know, I was going to ask you about that, actually. Driving out here, even in my head, I'm like, how did they even get that name?
I got it in Singapore. I was like, I want the local farm, because my idea was, okay, I want to have these things in. I used to work for Over 80 Foods, so I know some people high up there, and the idea was to put one of these in every, this is a pilot greenhouse here, put one in every parking lot to save on food. So it'd be the local farm save on foods.
Yeah.
Or on the roof even, I don't know. But that's the big picture idea. Just to make it hyper local. And, I think lettuce and herbs and those things, they don't travel well. The cost of travel from California, the pesticides used, all that kind of stuff. We want to do it differently. So we're trying to grow a hybrid, modern, vertical farming in a greenhouse that's not fully traditional, but it does have some of the traditional things going with it. And then the key thing is local. So so we came back, we started, and then it's been quite a adventure getting it going. So
How long has it been a thing now?
it's about a year and a few months.
Well, we did start in our 2-bedroom apartment in
Oh.
Singapore.
Yeah, we
If
did.
that counts.
Yeah, definitely.
I did, yeah. I actually used our spare bedroom in Singapore to experiment with the hydroponic systems, growing vertically. Not vertically by levels. A lot of people doing levels in warehouses, but there's problems with that. I did research, and the best way to do is with towers for airflow and just for harvesting and everything. It's just, I don't know if you guys heard of Zip Grow in the States.
No.
No.
They do these specialized towers for that purpose, and a lot of people doing these big warehouse farms using that technology, and it works really well. So yeah, I set that up in Singapore. We were starting to eat our own kale, didn't have to buy it anymore, and our own herbs and so on. So it was really cool.
Amazing. Yvonne, I have to ask you, has this project been something that since the inception of it you were fully into, or is this kind of Dean's like quote unquote crazy idea and you're kind of along for the ride because you're a super supportive partner?
A little bit of both. I guess he is a bit crazy. But I think our background as teachers also has helped us on the journey, because we were inquiry teachers, IB. So just naturally prone to that type of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And with that research, for me, my big buy-in was the sustainability of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I see sort of going forward in the future, even the youth that's out there now in the school, this is something that I think they need to know more about, and they need to realize that there needs to be a shift in how we produce food, how we grow food, so that the world is a better place for a lot of the youth out there. But yeah, he's mostly the brains.
Okay.
I'm more the doer, but I do have some good ideas ever so often, I think.
So is it? I always think. I think it came up actually on our podcast as well when we were chatting, because Dan with his business, his partner is involved as well. His wife. Does it work for you guys that one person is the idea person, the other person is the execution person, and if so, who's wearing what hat?
Dean's mostly the ideas guy. I do come up with a few, but I think I'm more of the doer.
Yeah.
And it does work. It's
Yeah.
been working for us, and even on that, it's certain levels. Like I'm the chef wannabe at home, and she's clean. She does a better job than I do.
I'm the sous chef.
Right.
And sous chef. So it's almost the same thing in the greenhouse. And doing hydroponics, it's keeping it clean is one of the big things.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have that in a partner, it's fantastic. So it's been working out really well that way. We just got to get her out of the full-time teaching job so that
Oh, you're still
that's
teaching.
coming up. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a full-time job on the side as well.
Yeah.
So it's like double work right
Yeah.
now. So
It's segueing into what Dan is doing with his business. It most of these things for a lot of us start off as like a side hustle, and then you realize the potential in it, so then it becomes a full-fledged thing.
Yeah.
And something you mentioned, and I want to bring Dan in on this now, is Dean, you mentioned like you want the wannabe chef inside of you is kind of a reason why you're doing this as well.
Yeah.
And I have to ask you, Dan, coming here today and seeing what they're doing with your background in food, like, what was it like experiencing just seeing what they're producing?
It opens up all the possibilities. As a chef who's worked in restaurants, that seasonality is kind of what we live by. To have that perception change that you can get these things in January and February, when usually all we were cooking was like kale and potatoes and beets and stuff. But to get fresh greens that are coming out of the ground from not California, something coming that is local, that's a huge shift. Just to see that possibility.
And are you seeing those conversations, that dialogue being had? And are you guys currently are partaking in the farmers markets here locally in Lower Mainland? Are those conversations being had? Are people blown away by what can be done in what used to be months where it would never be considered?
Yeah, I've been blown away at the farmers markets. I mean, the response has been fantastic. I mean, I've even had people thank us for growing the lettuce. I'm like, thank you for buying it. And especially when you have scares with the recent romaine thing, and then you got some people come up and they're just like, where's this stuff coming from? So then the conversation starts, and it's pretty fantastic. And then chefs will actually show up at farmers markets to check stuff out. And there'll be, you're growing shiso. I can get shiso. I can get basil at this time. And then we're like, yeah, you can. And it is a sustainable way we're doing it on many levels that we can go into. But yeah, there's huge interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it has huge potential. And we're just trying to figure out, like I said to you, I want to find partnerships. I don't want to just sell a bunch of stuff. I want to work with people that it works with and develop it like a grow on demand model. To keep it sustainable. We don't want any waste. We don't want anything like that. So, yeah, it's been a really good response so far.
Yeah, and I guess if I can... Sorry, Yvonne, do you want to say something there?
Oh, I was just going to say, too, with the microgreens. I think just educating people about what microgreens are, and then they're not locally available a lot of times in the grocery stores, and letting them know how we grow sustainably rather than using peat also has been, I think, very educational for the general public. So I've really appreciated having that opportunity as well.
For the listeners that are tuning in that might not be fully versed in what you can do with hydroponics, let's just talk about quickly what the microgreens that you guys are offering are. Just give people context of what you can do in here, or is it really limitless?
It's pretty limitless. We can grow any microgreen you desire, and we use it's a combination of hydroponics with coconut coir medium. So coconut coir is a neutral medium. It's sustainable because it's renewable. It's a waste product anyway.
You're saying coconut coir, sorry?
Yeah, coconut coir. So it's basically the husk of the core of the coconut. And then it goes through a fairly simple process. The only problem is it does have to be shipped. We obviously don't have coconuts here. So it's not a perfect solution, but it's better than things like peat, which I think a lot of people don't realize is it's not renewable. I mean, we're using up these peat bogs for all kinds of stuff. I mean, so we're trying to get away from that. And it's been a challenge because not everybody's... It's a little more money for coconut coir and all that other kind of stuff. So, and in terms of the microgreens, they do really well in it. They love it. We were trying to get organic, and we will add worm castings as well. But that always creates problems with pests and so on. And really, it doesn't really, we find it actually does better without it. And the other key thing with our microgreens is everything we do is living. That's the other part of the sustainability. We don't want to harvest because as soon as you cut it, it's over, you know, and especially things like basil and microgreens. So, yeah, and I'm surprised a lot of people don't know about microgreens. Some people are like, what are those? What?
Yeah.
I think in my professional career, that was the only time I came across microgreens. And a lot of places wouldn't even bring it in because it was cost prohibitive.
It's cost prohibitive mainly because of the harvesting.
Yeah.
And we've set up a system that's vertical, as you've seen back there. And we're using the LED lights on them. And when you have the system in place and runs automatically, it's really not prohibitive that way. And if you're not sitting there harvesting, which I just think is crazy.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want living ones? That it's so fresh, and the nutrients are like there, you know?
Yeah.
So the reason that we are here today is we are executing throughout 2019 6 dinners throughout the city and also in the Lower Mainland, and we're lucky enough to have the local farm taking part, and Dan's going to be there curating the menu, bringing people together for a charitable cause, and like I said, we're lucky enough to have local farm involved, and now having Dan curate this menu. And people that are listening, if you are local, you'll have an opportunity to come and see and taste and touch what Dan and Yvonne are producing, but on a plate that is handled by a chef like Dan, which is going to be super unique and really, really cool. But I want to ask, outside of people thanking you at Farmers Market, what other reactions are you getting? Say someone comes to you one weekend and then returns the next. Like, what is their response? Is there feedback in regards to the product? If so, what is it?
Yeah, they actually say, oh, your lettuce lasted so long, and I didn't have to throw any of them out. In fact, sometimes they say, well, didn't even have to store it. We ate it right away. And they talk about the freshness and the crispness of it. And they actually appreciate the fact that they're the ones that have to end up killing it. And
Right. Yeah.
they get all the nutrients right away.
Any other interesting kind of feedback pieces you've witnessed, Dean?
Yeah, I just think it's the living aspect blows them away. Some people already know it. They look for roots. Living lettuce is not a new thing. I think it's new locally. Like not a lot of doing it here. I know we got there's greenhouses in Alberta and so on that bring it in, but by the time they bring it in, it's all kind of dried up and stuff. So it misses the whole local part. So they like that. And the coconut coir, some people don't know what that is. They're like, well, what is this stuff? So we talk about the sustainability of that. And then the odd chefs that we had come in, just as I've said, they really surprised to see some of the products like, I wouldn't even say chefs stuff. People that want basil for pesto, sometimes it's hard to get. And some of the stuff in the grocery store that's cut is
So terrible.
it's terrible. And it's in the fridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was a Whole Foods. I mean, why do you put it? Anyway.
No, feel free. I think this is a great educational piece because I know to give you guys a bit of a peek under the tent. So Dean, Dan, and myself connected a few weeks ago, and we're having a conversation very briefly in regards to this dinner series and what we could do with Dean's product. And they were talking about, Dean and Dan were talking about tomatoes, and when people put them in the fridge, how it just drives them nuts. So let's not assume everyone out there understands that. I mean, the people that are making decisions at Whole Foods, if you're listening, don't put your basil in the refrigerated section.
They wonder why it's all dying.
Yeah.
I know.
So what should people be doing with product like yours, whether it is the lettuces or the microgreens? Ideally, when they go home, what does it look like? Are they storing it in the fridge? Are they storing it on the countertop? Where are they putting it?
Yeah, so we tell, it depends on the product. So basil obviously is on the countertop, doesn't like the cold. And we just say just keep the roots wet, and it will last a good week or more. Then the lettuces and so on, we suggest you can put it in the fridge. It'll last even longer.
Mm-hmm.
Her sister has a sub-zero fridge.
Very
Apparently
nice.
they last
Months.
months.
No.
But I say you can't tell that to people.
Yeah, exactly. We want them to come back and purchase stuff.
Yes, because then we gotta, they're gonna hold us to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they do last a long time, so that's another big thing. And I really found actually with say older people or single people, they can't use a whole head of lettuce right away.
Mm.
So they actually come back and appreciate. It was great. I didn't have to waste. So that's the other part of sustainability. We get rid of the waste. We waste so much.
Yeah.
Food, especially in grocery stores or at home and so on.
Just to add on to the kale as well. They've noticed, like, we had a avid kale user, and he used to come back and say, well, your kale, I can actually eat the center stalk because it's so tender. I don't have to cut that out and throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a very I guess flavorful, the kale that we have here compared to what's grown in the field.
Right. Well, we could let the kale grow big,
Mm-hmm.
and the stalks will get that way.
Tougher.
But the other part of what we always say is you get more nutrients the smaller it is. So
Which is so counterintuitive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you think I'm going to get a whole big thing of broccoli.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to eat a whole bunch of it.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you just eat a bit of microgreen broccoli, and you're getting there's studies showing that it's up to 40 times more than the adult, because it's using up the nutrients as it grows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Now, not to say you can just, well, I don't know, could you survive on microgreens? It's a good question. Some people think it's the future of food because it doesn't take a lot of space.
Right.
It's highly, nutrient dense, and we're addicted now. I mean, we get sad if we run out on our end. So
Yeah, it doesn't look like you're going to run out anytime soon.
no. But there are periods where it just all sells out, and you're like, wow, we should have kept some for ourselves. Honestly.
Dan, if you can speak to the listeners of the show that are in kitchens, chefs, sous chefs, line cooks, how would you describe or how would you communicate to them the potential of what this is, whether it's here locally or globally? Like, what could this do to their kitchen?
I think it could empower the cooks to be able to actually have an available source that's accessible and isn't cost prohibitive and is beautiful, and you can actually have a conversation with Dean about what you were imagining and what you might want.
Mm-hmm.
Because microgreens, as like from an ordering guide standpoint, like you'd look at it and there'd be like 3 or 4 things. You might have cress, you might have the bull's blood, you might have mizuna, but that's kind of where it would dry up, and then it would be so expensive. And just given the fact that you can have that conversation and figure out how it can work for you, and design it into the menu.
Dean, how
exciting.
Sorry to interrupt. How open are you to working with? Because I know with this dinner in particular that we're executing in February, you basically just said to Dan, like, you tell me what you want and we can do it. So how open are you? Like, let's not like have it free reign for the whole system. But if a chef or a business wanted a certain thing, like how available and how able are you to just kind of customize what they need?
Well, yeah, we're not the only ones doing it. It's we want to be on that grow on demand model. So, okay, you want this, we need a 6-week turn. If you want microgreens at this stage and where you get the true leaves, we need a 2-week turn or 3 weeks. It depends on what it is. If you want basil, it's longer and so on. But we're, in terms of offering the variety, you know, as long as you order a tray's worth, it doesn't make a difference for us. I mean, we could have the seeds. It goes into the system, and we've grown all varieties, so we know their little intricate, problems or issues to deal with, and some of them we do have to grow differently. But that's what we want to do. We want to have variety. We want to get away from this monoculture type thing. I know I had a buddy from Save On Foods come in, and he's got, oh, you're growing too much in here. Well, you should just grow the the Boston Boston head lettuce. And I said, well, that's what they're doing over at Winsett, right over there.
Yeah.
And I don't want to compete with that, and that's not our goal. We want to be a sustainable, more diverse part of a new way of farming. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, the monocrop mentality hopefully shifts.
Yeah, and hopefully it starts here with the local farm. Something Dean and I were lamenting about before we turned the mics on as we were getting a tour of the inside. He was talking about how talking to chefs, and he was saying, I don't know what type of lettuce it was, but like, this lettuce is perfect. It's great for you. You cut it and serve it. But the chef wanted something different and more unique. And I was saying how I find that so many times food and music and food and art come together. And I said to Dean that it's almost like the lettuce became that rock band that is no longer underground. They're now like mainstream, so that they don't want to use that product anymore. So what is that about chefs? And maybe Dan, you can pipe in on this. Why is it that they're constantly looking for something different when what they have access to is perfectly fine or great or it works?
I think surprising people.
Yeah.
I think there is a sense of pride in chefs that get to introduce things to people that they haven't had before. They haven't thought of it in that aspect before. Like we were talking about sorrel before. Sorrel is, to a lot of chefs, it's used in different ways so that you can surprise people. Like you cook it down, it tastes different than when it's fresh, and it's a green that tastes like lemons. Like people don't put that together generally because people are so used to lettuce just tasting like lettuce. Just, it's fresh and delicious. But to have something that's like punchy and surprising, I think that's what drives a lot of chefs.
Yeah.
Something that looks like something and tastes something like something else. I think that's why modernist cuisine has taken off so much, is that you're constantly able to surprise people.
What is the one item right now, if you guys had to label, is still the underground rock band of what you produce? Is there one item where you think like it's really, really cool, but it hasn't fully been accepted by the masses yet? It hasn't hit critical mass yet.
Go ahead.
There's a number of them. You bring up sorrel. I mean, she loves it, but most people don't even know what it is. So we try to bring these things to the market, knowing full well it's not for chefs. It's for as I said, some of these, you pointed out those beautiful sunflower microgreens. I love them.
They're gorgeous.
They're gorgeous, but one chef put it to me, it's the hot dogs of microgreens. Like, we want the fancy stuff, the amaranth and the stuff that people won't actually buy at the market.
Yeah.
Now we're trying to educate them, but it's a pretty slow process. I mean, a lot of things have nice flavors, arugula, surprisingly, there's a lot of people that actually already like arugula, and but sometimes these things are hard to grow. I was saying to Dan, you want the wild rocket. Yeah, I know, you're a chef. Hey, and you want the Sylvetta. Okay. If you actually read the literature, it's one of the harder things to grow in hydroponics.
I'm sorry.
No problem. We will grow it for you. But it actually works out because, you do your research. It likes deep soil. And so we do it in the deep water, and you can see it's doing quite well, right? And we've grown it before, but so that's okay. I like that challenge, though. That's actually why I like the restaurant side. So I'm not necessarily complaining, but let's find a balance. You know, I got to be able to grow it reasonably, you know, at a reasonable cost. So let's not get too crazy. But I really like some of the different stuff coming out. So, and I was showing Dan some of the other microgreens out there for chefs, and they're coming out with more and more seeds for it too. So it's great. So I look forward to the future in that.
Cool. Should we take a quick break and do like 10 jumping jacks? Because I feel like
I'm freezing.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think it's freezing. So we'll take a quick break, guys, and we'll be right back. All right, we are back. Dean has put on more than one layer so he can stop shaking. I was shaking too. First I thought I was nervous, and I was like, no, your body temperature is just slowly dropping. We lost the sun behind a cloud, and we were a bit ambitious of being outdoors. But hey, we're going to rough through it, all for you guys, creating fantastic content. One thing that I wanted to touch on, and Dean, you mentioned it when we first started this podcast, was Dan said this to me, I think 5 minutes into the drive. He said, why not marijuana? So I know when you and I first spoke, that was one of the first things you said to me was, everyone thinks it should be marijuana, but why are you going down this path when it seems like everyone else in the world right now that has the potential to is doubling down, tripling down on marijuana here in Canada?
Well, I am also I love to study markets as well, and you know, gold rushes tend not to work out for anybody. And, you know, you got a lot of these big greenhouses going from cucumbers to marijuana, and then you kind of go, well, what are we going to do? You know, drink wine and smoke weed. Right? What are we going to eat? You know, and then we're putting condos on all this farmland as well. Okay, well, what are we going to eat? You know, no, I'm not dumb. I did look into it. You got to get a license, and I was looking at the numbers, and the supply outweighed demand already. And I think it's one of those things, it's government. You got to know people. I didn't want to do it illegally, obviously. And of course, anytime I go over the border or anything, I got a white unmarked van. I don't have the logo on it yet. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I have a greenhouse farm. Oh yeah. What are you growing? Herbs.
No, really, herbs.
Yeah. Oh, I am. You know, basil, not marijuana. And actually, even suppliers, I guess some of these, a couple of American suppliers, which is beneficial for me, have come up all because of marijuana. Sunlight Supply and a couple others. But they actually grilled me. You know, we're tired of people calling. They want to grow marijuana out of their homes or to get on the gold rush. So I saw it as gold rush. I didn't see money in it anyway, and we didn't want to do it. That wasn't our whole goal. You know, we want to actually grow things that make sense locally, and that's leafy greens and herbs. And we need food that are pesticide free. You know, and we're not into marijuana ourselves. So
Cool. Neither am I, but Dan maybe wishes that there was a little
I was
plot in the back.
Totally wondering.
Asking for a friend.
I think it's great to not be part of that circle. Like you said, it's politics, it's permits, it's licenses, and for small producers, it's probably a dream that's going to pass anyways, and they're going to be eclipsed by the big businesses anyhow. So
yeah, and the
make
big
food.
and the big American companies are coming up here as well. So I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't want to go down that road, and nobody wants to do this. I can understand. It's challenging, but it's a niche, and I think it's the future. And I think we're getting back to these local community farms and these relationships between local restaurants. But not restaurants aren't going to use marijuana, you know, and neither are grocery stores. So
You got to think 20 years from now. 20 years from now, I hope that more food is produced in this manner, and we're not depending on California for growing X, Y, and Z. And it would be way nicer for it to be able to. Our lettuce is coming from your farm in December and January, and supply Whole Foods choices. I don't know, save on like all of them.
Exactly. I mean, that's our idea as well. 'Cause, you know, it's a big problem anyway. There's not going to be enough to go around. You know, the population. So in California's kind of getting dry. Can't feed everybody forever. So we have to do something, I think, and we want to be part of that.
Have you come across any naysayers, especially, excuse me, with being so front and center at like the local farmers market? Has anyone come up to you and challenge what you're doing in regards to the method or the product? What does that look like, and how do you respond to that dialogue?
Yeah, no, most people don't. They're just happy they're getting living lettuce in December, you know. But we do have challenges again, you know, with peat, coconut coir. Well, coconut coir, it travels. And I go, I know it's not perfect, but it's better than peat. We recently had this guy, PhD chemistry. I think he's got 2 PhDs, and
Those damn chemists.
I was like, yeah, I have a background, but not PhD. So he talked about organics and the problems with organics, and well, I shouldn't actually say that because we'd like to be part of this post-organic movement where we're not against organics. I think it has its place, but it's a bit of an exclusive club. It's expensive. Even if we wanted to in Canada, we couldn't be organic because you actually have to use dirt, which is, in our opinion, depleted. And some of the stuff they have to use to make it fertile, we can go into that, but I'm not anti-organic. But because of technology and so on, we can move beyond organic. And it's happening in the States, and we want to be part of that up here. Some people have a problem with that. We don't talk about it. We don't want to offend anybody. We like certain organic, but we follow the dirty dozen, and not everything has to be organic. And I think it's become quite political and quite bureaucratic.
Bureaucratical, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I faced that in September.
Yeah.
All the labeling standards changed over, and all the farms I work with are organic and have been following the practices for decades, but it was cost prohibitive for them. They had to get licenses and they had to be renewed, and it was really designed for the really, really big farms.
Yeah.
But the family farms were, why would I want to give away 30% of my money that my family's living off of?
Mhm.
And then I would have to get a license, and then I have to get certified, and then it's really just the system hasn't evolved to a point where it's acceptable for small businesses.
Mhm.
I mean, you can make it work, but
Well,
maybe in 5 years it'll be different.
I think they have to change it because it's not working for the small producers.
No,
I mean, we use organic coconut coir, but we can't say organic at all
right?
because it's not dirt.
Right.
So it's kind of maybe old thinking. Maybe they got to change their way of thinking. I know in the States it would be considered organic, even hydroponic, but not here.
I think though, with my other gig outside of podcasting, being a restaurant consultant, one thing I'm seeing is one thing I'm paid to see is trends. And one thing that's coming up more and more in conversation is consumers are less concerned about organic and where things are coming from. So I think that in itself gives you guys a great, with this project in this business, a great hand up on things that are organic. When you can say like, this is grown here, like literally kilometers from here, and this is what we can do on this land. I think
Right.
I don't think I know that consumers are less concerned now with organic and more concerned with where things are coming from, especially if they can talk to the producer and understand the method that goes into producing what it is. That amount of clarity is far more valuable than a sticker that says organic, because people are so much more educated now as well. They understand that it's a system.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we were worried about it at first, and we researched going organic because we thought, everybody's going to want organic, but we are not finding that. It's the local thing that's trumping organic now, and I think they realize that. I mean, organic farmers, they have a whole host of pesticides and herbicides and so on that they can use. It's
I know, exactly.
deemed organic, right?
Yeah.
So I think they really appreciate local over organic now, and so we're not even contemplating it anymore. We just don't see that as a future for us anyway.
Yeah, I think it was Michael Pollan in Omnivore's Dilemma that I think way back then when he first wrote that, I think he was even talking about if you have a choice between buying a local cucumber, and an organic cucumber, buy the local cucumber, because that organic one is probably coming via a ship or a plane or 18-wheeler, et cetera, et cetera. So if you have the opportunity, especially if you can speak to the farmers, people that are growing the product face to face, vote with your dollars that way.
And to finish the story of the chemist just real quick, he was very interesting. He was working with some farmers on going truly organic. And what the idea for him was, this organic soil business is bunk, according to him, because what are they adding to it? What are they putting on it? Where's the manure coming from? People would actually kick him out. But he wants to go back to using our acid rain and just using mineral rocks, and you get the minerals from that. And I'm just like, well, that's out there, And he says, well, if you want to get it going, you let me know. I'm having a hard enough time just doing local greens, buddy. But very interesting stuff, So yeah, we do meet interesting people that actually will counter your sustainability argument, and but not a lot. Everybody, we use 90% less water, for example, and people ask about that, and they don't really question it. I mean, I guess we could put almost anything up there, but we don't. Because really what happens is they come and they see the greens and it's like,
Yeah, greens. I want to buy some
local.
of that.
Good.
Yeah. We were talking earlier as we first walked in, you were showing us you had a level out and a piece of wood, and you were it was 6%, I think was the number that you said.
Right.
Is that a number that you found right away, or did you have to do research, or was it trial and error? So we're talking about I'm going to try a word here, like a gradient that you're putting things at,
Right, yeah.
in regards to letting the water flow
Right.
down to the vegetation. So did you know right away 6% was the number, or is this kind of trial and error and truly science?
Yeah, no, truly science. So everything is started with research. So even a silly thing like slope took me a while to figure out. And that's where I found that big farm in Australia failed because they had the wrong slope. They were off by, somebody came later. They thought it was due to other reasons, but they're using very long channels. So slope can make the difference between a good crop and failure. So there's all these inputs and things you got to research, and then trial and error is huge. I mean, I wish I could do everything right the first time. I usually do about 3 or 4 or 5, 10 iterations of something, and hey, that was working.
Right.
So yeah, lots of trial and error, lots of patience, and but I'm into it. I like the challenge. Some days though, the 60-hour business, like being a chef, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to be doing that forever.
Yeah.
You know. So hopefully it's getting better and better though.
Good. Dan, I feel like I'd be remiss not to allow you an opportunity to ask a couple questions, not to put you on the spot. Do you have any questions like for, again, your chef folk out there, or even with your current business, with your kombucha business? Like, is there anything that you want to pick Dean's brain on with what he's doing and potential opportunities for the industry, for food and bev? Again, putting you on the spot.
I guess what my time frame, like what, how does it vary? You said basil was a little bit longer. Microgreens is like a 2-week time period. And then if it's staggered for like supply for a restaurant, would they be able to have a constant stream?
Yeah, so that's why we want to work with restaurants or grocery stores. So supply and demand would be, I should say, grow on demand.
Mm-hmm.
But we would figure that out. So we kind of figure out, well, how much would you anticipate? And you can make those adjustments. But yeah, if you want this product, we need 6 weeks. So each would have that on it, because we can control the lighting, the environment, everything. So I can actually hit those targets, right? And then we just plan it, and basically you're almost getting a permanent spot in the greenhouse. I mean,
Right.
That's what we want to do, as opposed to we're just going to grow a bunch of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just going to throw it into the stores or. I mean, we're doing that with farmers markets, but we really narrow down to what people want. So we're trying to reduce that waste as well. So that's the idea. So that's why the partnership idea is important, because I think that needs time to develop, though, because I know there's some of that out there, but I don't think there's enough right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, like for the grow on demand type thing where, yeah,
I think there's a handful of restaurants that are currently using microgreens daily, and I guarantee they're throwing out a lot of it
Right.
because it's probably not coming in that fresh. Some of it is still in soil, some of it's not trimmed, but again, it's probably, I don't even know where to be grown to be honest. Barnston Island, I know maybe they do some microgreens.
Yeah, there's a few out
There's a
there.
few.
There's the peddler. There's microgreens. The problem with microgreens is there's a pretty low barrier to entry, so you'll have quite a few people doing it. But to do it on a commercial scale is a different story, right? And a lot of guys are doing it in soil. Again, that goes against what our sustainability mission is. And then they'll spray from the top, so it's all hand done. And then it becomes too much labor as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to develop that system that's pretty streamlined, and then get it to restaurants where we develop that. Okay, well, here's your space. You're going to be guaranteed that, essentially, unless we have a big crop failure or something, right?
Right.
Which happens.
Any others for them? No? Cool. So this show is called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. I have for you both the half a dozen have-tos. So stay with me here.
Okay.
I'm putting you on the spot, but I feel like you can do it.
Okay.
I need from you both 1 to 6, so ideally 3 each. 1 to 6 items that you've experienced in your life, whether it's related to your business or not, or travel, whatever it may be. 1 to 6 things that you guys feel like our listeners have to do, whether it's a trip you've taken, a museum you've been to, an album you've purchased, a piece of art you've stared at, a sweater you just put on because you were freezing. what are we're almost done. What are 1 to 6 of Dean and Yvonne's have tos?
For me, I think my first one would be to take some time to be mindful. And I find that in the greenhouse, working with the plants and just sort of being in the moment is a have to. And I think more so in society nowadays as we end up making our lives more busy than they need to be.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah, she took mine. The one thing you can't get, I keep coming up with this, is that you can't get time back.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've been really busy with this, but we're conscious that we got to get to a place where we have time, you know. And I think people, everybody, it's the rat race. Everybody seems to just be, you know, especially if you got kids, right? And working 60 hours. I get it. But if you do that long enough, this is another reason we're doing it on a personal level. So we didn't want that. We look around, and we could do it, I guess, because we don't have kids. I think it's harder when you have kids. But it's that sort of traditional work hard, play hard, and then retire, and then basically, you know, lots of people don't last too long, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to find something where it becomes more of a lifestyle, as opposed to you got to get through this work, and then I got to have my retirement, my pension, and blah blah blah. So it
doesn't feel like work.
Find something that you can make, and not to say that I come here, I enjoy it. There are problems. There's plenty of problems.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But we're making it a lifestyle. So it's not like, we got to go into work. This is what we do. You know? So I don't have any sort of places or material things to. I mean, there's a lot of beautiful places, and we've traveled a lot. We've been overseas teachers and so on. So. Yeah.
So I guess a place for me would be the beaches in Dubai.
Okay.
I think Dubai is often sort of seen as sort of the glitz and glam and the shopping centers.
Right.
But I think a lot of the beauty in Dubai was the serenity on the beaches and just miles and miles of sand and crystal clear water, warm temperatures.
Beautiful. Yes, warm temperatures.
Warm temperatures,
Dean,
yes.
think about the beaches.
I miss
channeling the beach.
I miss Dubai.
As we sit here and shiver. Do you have any more have-tos? I know you said not many material things you needed to like share, but anything else you wanted to share in regards to a have-to?
I have to?
Yeah.
Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Microgreens.
Microgreens.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
When we started growing it and we started eating it, I'm just like, none of us can live without it now. Like, you put it on everything. You put it soups. You can have spicy, you can have sweet, crunchy, nutty. There's all varieties, right? Can't have a sandwich without it. A salad without, maybe. But microgreens, discover them, and good for you. Tastes good.
Yeah. And you get 40 times more nutrients than if you ate like a head of broccoli. But you eat broccoli microgreens. Like, that's amazing. And especially if society keeps eating and going as fast as it is. I mean, chop and snip and throw in your top of whatever you're making for that extra vitamin kick. I think it's a great way.
All the macronutrients that people can work into their diets. I feel the same way with fermented foods.
Yes, exactly.
Love
them.
Like kombucha.
Like kombucha. Or like kimchi or sauerkraut.
Yeah.
It's one of those it's like the gateway. Kombucha is like the gateway drug to the other fermented foods, and it breaks it down. And like microgreens, I think just that consciousness that they can get more nutrients and there's more bang for your buck. You don't have to have, like you said, a whole head of broccoli. Even though it's nice.
Yeah.
You don't need it.
Broccoli's good. The last question I have for you is same kind of idea, but the half a dozen haven't yet. So 1 to 6 items that you guys either as a couple or individually haven't experienced yet, whether it's in line with the business or just personally. 1 to 6 things you haven't experienced yet, kind of like a bucket list, if you will.
I'm pretty content. I just have to think a bit more.
Yeah, no, you know what? That's beautiful. A lot of people say they don't have any. They're kind of living the lives they want to live, and they've experienced things they want to experience. I know right now Dean wants a warm bowl of soup, but
once I start shivering, I can't stop. I don't know what the problem is.
No,
Just ignore me.
yeah, no, I'm the same way. I got the busy lag going on over here right now.
The bucket list. To be honest with you, this last year and a half's been a whirlwind, so I haven't had much time to think about it. I don't have anything on top except for there's a lot of things I want to do with the greenhouse and expanding this. And there's, like, for example, a barn over there that we can grow microgreens out of, or do some shiitake mushrooms. So for me, my head's in that space right now.
Cool.
We've traveled the world quite a bit, so that bucket list is kind of done.
Nice.
I don't want to travel anymore. I don't want to get in a plane flying at we won't go there.
Right.
And so I'm fairly content. Just the cold weather, I'm still getting used to.
Well, we are happy to have you back. I know Yvonne was saying it's been 2 years now, so we're happy to have you back. I'm super happy that I had the opportunity of meeting you both.
Me too.
And so glad that Dan was able to join us today and
Yeah.
have you two kind of rap about everything that Dean and Yvonne you're creating here, and that we're going to be able to offer to the guests at the dinner again, which is all going to charity, which is amazing. I cannot wait to execute that. And hopefully, I was saying to Yvonne, hopefully you guys are able to join us. It is February 23rd. It is a Saturday. It is at the Garden Strathcona. If you are local here in Vancouver or in BC, please do come out and support not only the local farm, not only Dan and his business, and but really coming out for the charity and helping us put food in people's mouths that can't afford it. That's what we're doing this for.
Awesome.
But before I do let you go officially, I want to celebrate you both so much for doing what you do, because it is making a difference. And I don't know if you've seen it. There's a YouTube video of a 4-foot, 200-pound domino, and that domino eventually falls. But when it falls because of many, many dominoes before it. The very first domino that's placed and tipped over is placed with a pair of tweezers. And that very first domino is minute. And the reason I bring that up is because it's little things like this greenhouse in this small part of BC that is going to make a big, big difference someday. So kudos to you guys for investing time, energy, emotion into this, because I know people like Dan appreciate it, consumers like myself appreciate it, and the listeners in the show appreciate what you guys are doing. So kudos to you for flying that flag. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for
Thank you.
giving us this opportunity.
Yeah, no, my absolute
Sure.
pleasure. I think people are going to love this podcast. They're going to love to find out more about what you guys are doing. And speaking of which, if people do want to reach out and do want to connect with you, how best to do that?
So we got a website where you'll find we're on Instagram, we got Facebook. The website's www.localfarm.ca.
Which I still can't believe was available.
I know. I was so shocked. But anyway, and then that's 778-822-GROW. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So check them out on social media, guys, on Instagram. They also have their website. And again, if you are living local, you can find them at the local farmers market at Rye.
We're trying to get in Riley's Park, but right now we're at the P&E on Sundays, and then also at the Cannery in Richmond.
Cool. I'm meeting with the Vancouver Farmers Market people next week, so I'll put in a good word for you for Riley Park.
Riley Park.
Yeah, Riley Park. Riley Park. Thank you guys so much, as always, for tuning in. We are going to go get warm, stop shivering. We'll probably go in where it's nice and warm
Yes.
and 20 degrees. Again, thank you, Dan, so much for joining us. Round
Thank you.
2 in the podcast. Check out Dan's product, guys. It's Culture Craft Kombucha. He is online. Website, Instagram, and you can find him locally in how many stores did you say?
43.
43 stores. Get the
Awesome.
kombucha in
Yeah.
you. And you'll be able to try some of that at the dinner as well. So thank you guys so much. Keep doing what you do. Be good to each other. Work extra hard. And until next time, guys, be good and do good. We are out. Oh, my God, it's cold. Good job, guys.